So by now you guys have already heard Alexander Volkanovski, right? The renowned fighter from Australia is stepping in with just little over 10 days notice to fight Makhachev, who was scheduled to defend his belt against Charles Oliveira at UFC 294. However, as we know, Oliveira suffered his injury in training, and this led to the champ taking on a new challenge in Alexander Volkanovski. This isn't the first time Makhachev and Volkanovski have crossed paths. Obviously, they had a close fight at UFC 284 in February, where Makhachev barely held onto his title with a decision win over Volkanovski. Although it wasn't initially in the UFC's immediate plans, the unexpected rematch is now happening. This time, it's hard to predict who will emerge as the victor, given the fierce competition and the slim margin of their previous encounter. It's an exciting showdown between two champions, and I know you guys cannot wait. So I made a quick breakdown on the fight, and at the end of the video, I'm going to be giving you guys my prediction on who wins this fight. The first thing I want to mention, obviously, in this video is their striking, right? Many people believe that Alexander Volkanovski was the superior striker compared to Islam Makhachev. Now, that might be true, to some extent. Their first fight showed that they are closely matched in their stand-up skills. Makhachev, a southpaw, even hurt Volkanovski, in the early rounds. But then we saw Volkanovski come back in the later rounds and land some pretty devastating blows on Makhachev as well. In their upcoming rematch, it's expected that the striking exchanges will be competitive. Obviously, either fighter could potentially inflict fight-ending damage to their opponent. Now, the crazy thing is that statistically, Volkanovski holds a edge on Makhachev, right? Because there's a difference of nearly 3 times as many strikes that Volkanovski, right, lands on his opponent. Despite this advantage, Volkanovski can't afford to become complacent on his feet, considering Makhachev's capabilities. However, it appears that it is in his best interest to keep the rematch standing, where his striking prowess can shine. Something that I would like to mention in this video as well is that maybe in their first fight, Alexander Volkanovski was expecting a little bit more grappling and wrestling from Islam Makhachev, and some of the striking may have caught Alexander by surprise, because we do see that in the later rounds, Alexander Volkanovski did start adjusting and did start coming forward and did start putting the pressure on Islam Makhachev, and there was a lot of exchanges where Alexander Volkanovski was in the dominant positions. Which leads me to my next point, because in their previous fight, obviously Makhachev had a lot of opportunities where he could have been in the right positions to potentially submit Alexander Volkanovski. Islam Makhachev holds a distinct advantage here. Obviously, Makhachev has an impressive track record with 11 submission victories, while Volkanovski only has 3. I think another important point to bring up in this video is the fact that Alexander Volkanovski has never been submitted. Of course, he's had close calls with Brian Ortega back in 2021 and his previous bout with Makhachev. It's important for us to know that Islam Makhachev's grappling and submission skills pretty much don't guarantee success in this fight due to Volkanovski's resilient submission defense. If we have to play fair, I think obviously Islam Makhachev has the edge over Volkanovski if we're just talking about submission skills alone. But if we're talking about submissions, obviously we have to talk about the realm of wrestling, which we know that Makhachev and Volkanovski are both highly skilled at. But Makhachev obviously holds the notable advantage on paper. In their first fight, Makhachev completed 4 takedowns in 5 rounds, accumulating over 7 minutes of control time on the mat, and a significant factor in convincing the judges for that win. He's also one of the few fighters who successfully defended all 4 of Volkanovski's takedown attempts, demonstrating his defensive prowess as a wrestler. But obviously, Alexander Volkanovski is no slouch either. It's worth noting that Volkanovski demonstrated strong defensive skills by successfully defending against 5 other of Makhachev's takedown attempts and even securing around 3 minutes of control time in their first bout. Nevertheless, Makhachev maintains an advantage in the wrestling, as he is widely regarded as one of the top wrestlers in the UFC right now. Now, before we end this video, we obviously have to talk about this short notice challenge for both fighters. Let's first start off with Alexander Volkanovski. I feel like under normal circumstances, if Volkanovski gets a full fight camp and prepares his body the way he needs to, and prepares a clever strategy with time on his side, I feel like fans would give Volk a solid chance of winning the rematch. But it's a short notice fight, which makes his path to victory a steep uphill battle. Now, on the flip side, there's a narrative out there being thrown around that Makhachev obviously has a huge advantage over Volkanovski because he's the one who got the fight camp. And although we initially thought that he was gearing up against Charles Oliveira, yeah, Oliveira is not built like Volkanovski. Oliveira does not attack the same way that Volkanovski does. They're both distinct fighters that have distinct fighting styles, and they're both good at different things. The game plan that Makhachev and his coaching team at American Kickboxing Academy have prepared for Oliveira is now irrelevant. But where are the advantages for this short notice rematch? I'm going to tell you guys my point of view. I feel like Volkanovski is a smarter fighter. I feel like he is a more cerebral fighter. I think that he has a better understanding of Makhachev's styles and his tendencies. I feel like Volkanovski can use their previous fight against Makhachev as a learning experience, and he is better at identifying areas where he needs to make adjustments. And we saw that in the last couple rounds of their first bout, where Volkanovski was out-positioning Islam Makhachev, and a lot of people were saying that, oh, Islam was getting tired. I beg to differ. I feel like Volkanovski was making adjustments on the fly because he was absolutely out-positioning Makhachev in some of the exchanges. And obviously, the biggest advantage that Makhachev has over Alexander Volkanovski in this short notice rematch is the fact that Islam is the only fighter out of the two that had a full fight camp to prepare. And obviously, Islam is going to have the confidence of knowing that he already beat Alexander Volkanovski once, so why not do it again? Now, before I tell you guys my prediction on who's going to win this fight, if you guys would just do me the favor of liking the video, consider subscribing, and leave a comment. Do you guys agree with me? Do you guys disagree with any of the points that I made in this video? But without further ado, here is the prediction. The outcome of this fight in context of the short notice circumstances is obviously challenging. If they had a full 8 weeks to prepare, I think Volkanovski might have the edge. But Makhachev has a few extra advantages that could prove to be pivotal in a sport where all the small advantages make a huge difference. Therefore, and this is hard to admit, man, because I'm a huge Volkanovski fan, my brain is telling me Makhachev. My brain is telling me Islam Makhachev. But my heart, as a fan of the sport and a fan of Volkanovski, my heart is telling me to go with Alexander Volkanovski. So yeah, that's super hard to admit. That's super hard to admit that I think that Makhachev is probably going to win this fight. But if there's anyone that could beat Makhachev in a short notice fight, it's going to be Alexander Volkanovski. I hope that makes sense to you guys. It's not a super clear prediction, I know, but that's just what my gut feels. My brain is telling me Makhachev. My heart is telling me Alexander Volkanovski. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace out.